Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Political Excess. Today it's time for another deep dive. This time it's for the epic battle for U.S. Senate in Ohio. I did a deep dive into this race a few months ago, but now that it's right before Election Day, let's see where things stand. But first, we'll still do a little bit of background about this race, and let's get on Ballotpedia. The incumbent Senator Republican Rob Portman, he has declined to run for re-election to a third term. So the Republican nominee is JD Vance. He is a venture capitalist, lawyer, and author with no prior political experience. His opponent on the Democratic side is Tim Ryan. And Tim Ryan has been serving in the U.S. House from the northeast part of the state, the Youngstown area, since all the way back in 2003. So let's go back and take a look at their primaries. Tim Ryan did face primary challengers, but there was nothing really notable about it. He's viewed as the more moderate candidate, and he won with almost 70% of the vote. On the Republican side, there was a very competitive primary. It was a 3 or 4-way race. JD Vance came out on top with 32.2% of the vote over Josh Mandel, who got just under 24%. There's no runoffs in Ohio, so Vance becomes the nominee with only 32% of the vote. And if you want to compare raw vote totals from the primaries, the Democrats had over 517,000, while the Republicans had almost 1,070,000. I don't put much weight on primary vote totals, but if you do, Republicans had more than double of the Democrats. So let's go down here and see how this race is rated. All three sites, Cook Political Report, Inside Elections, and Larry Sabato have it at lean Republican. My own rating is likely Republican. Ohio has trended toward the right over the last few elections. Donald Trump won it by 8 points 2 years ago, but the polls only showed him leading by about 1 in the aggregate. So that is a vast underestimation of Republican support. It could be the shy Trump voter. It could be polling firms missampling the electorate. It could be a late surge at the end. All those are possible factors. It is true that Ohio's other U.S. Senator, Sherrod Brown, he's been able to win statewide, but he has run more so in blue-leaning years, and the state has continued to trend toward the right. I'll go more into that later on, but let's go down here and take a look at the campaign finance. This shows us that Tim Ryan actually has more money raised by a lot. This makes sense. Tim Ryan, he is part of the establishment. JD Vance is definitely an outsider. The establishment was reluctant at best to support him, and even a lot of Republican voters were hesitant to get behind him. So even with all that spending by Tim Ryan, he's still very likely to come out with a loss. Let's go down farther and take a look at how the counties are trending on a presidential level. And this shows us that 43.4% of the population lives in 71 counties that are solid Republican, and that is defined as having voted for the Republican for president in the last 3 elections. On the other end, 37.7% of the population lives in 6 counties that are solid Democratic. Another 9.7% of the population lives in 8 counties that are trending Republican. And those are counties that voted for Barack Obama in 2012, but then switched to vote for Donald Trump both times. There's 2 more counties with 4.6% of the population that voted for Donald Trump just the last time. And then there's 1 more county that's battleground Democratic that voted for Obama, then Trump, then switched back to Biden. So let's go down and take a look at some of these counties. Remember, the shading does not indicate margins. It just indicates if they voted for the Democrat or Republican for president in the last 1, 2, or 3 elections. That battleground Democratic county is Montgomery. That is where Dayton is. And these are some close margins that indicate it's completely up for grabs. So we'll have to see if there's any trends that continue next time. Democrats do have a few blue counties here. Hamilton County, where Cincinnati is, we can see that has trended toward the left. Franklin County is the most populous county. That has Columbus, the state capital. That has also trended toward the left. Cuyahoga County, where Cleveland is, that county has basically stagnated and might actually have even slightly trended toward the right. Lucas County has Toledo. Trump did better there last time than he did in 2016, and much better than Romney did in 2012. Most of the rest of these counties are very deep red, and have shifted toward the right over the last couple of elections, and now many of them are easily going 60% for the Republican, and there's also a bunch that are even eclipsing 70%. These lighter red counties in the northeastern part of the state, that is where Tim Ryan was from. Youngstown, Akron, those were traditionally Democratic counties. A lot of blue-collar union type of workers there. Typical Rust Belt stuff that's been trending toward the Republicans. And we can see generally these margins are down and trending a little bit toward the right. But Ohio has become a moderately red state over the last decade. Democrats do have a few medium to large blue cities, but all that vote is quickly drowned out by the surrounding suburbs and definitely these deep red rural counties. So let's move on to YouTube and take a look at their channels. Here is JD Vance's channel. He's got some ads on here and some speeches and media appearances. Here is Tim Ryan's channel. He has some campaign stops he's done as well as some ads of his own. We could take a look at their official campaign websites. Here is JD Vance's if you want to see where he stands on the issues, or throw him a few bucks if you're interested in donating. And here is Tim Ryan's channel if you want to read about where he stands on the issues, take a look at his store, or donate to his campaign. And how about the debates? Well, there were 2 debates. I watched both of them. The links will be down below in the description. You can watch them here on YouTube if you'd like. They were both very contentious. Tim Ryan, he went on the offensive a lot. JD Vance was also on the attack. They're both trying to defend these claims that the other one levied at them. I think Tim Ryan knows he's still the underdog. He wanted to come out with a lot of zest and catch Vance off guard. I don't think it really worked. I think they both mostly held their own. But it is nice to see those U.S. Senate debates. So let's go on to Wikipedia and take a look at the endorsements. JD Vance, he does, of course, have that Donald Trump endorsement. That helped him a lot in the primary. But he's got plenty of other ones on here as well, organizations. And here's Tim Ryan's endorsements. He has the Hillary Clinton endorsement. He's got a bunch of other ones from Ohio, organizations, labor unions, etc. So that takes us down to the polling. And as of the time of this video, JD Vance in the aggregate has a 2% lead, 46.5 to 44.5. That's on Real Clear Politics. On 538, he only has a 0.2% lead. Let's go down here and look at the individual polls. Well, on first glance, it does appear to be a back-and-forth kind of a race. Some of these are Republican-aligned polls. There's a couple Democrat-aligned polls. No one really is hitting 50% in most of these polls, and it is close. However, you can click on any one of these individual polls to take a look at the sample sizes. Some of them have crosstabs, and you can see within those details if there's anything worth questioning. I expect Vance to pick up a little bit more steam in the final 2 weeks. People were unfamiliar with him at first. Tim Ryan has a ton of money going against Vance in this race, and plus Tim Ryan is more well-known. He's been in Congress for 2 decades. So if Tim Ryan was really going to make a move in this red-leaning year, and considering past polling errors, he would have to be doing a lot better than this. But let's compare these poll results to how they stacked up 6 years ago. And that race was a blowout. Rob Portman got 58% of the vote. Ted Strickland got 37%. And here's one where SurveyMonkey was really close at the end. This last Emerson poll, for some reason, way undersampled both of these candidates, but the rest were mostly close enough, especially in a landslide like this. Finally, let's get on Predict It and take a look at the market. And this has JD Vance at 88 cents, Tim Ryan is at 15 cents. So what is the conclusion? Well, as I said, Ohio has become more of a red state. Not overwhelming, but enough to where it should be out of reach for Tim Ryan in an open seat in a red-leaning year. JD Vance has made some controversial statements against Donald Trump in the past. That's probably a factor as to why his support is not a little bit higher than it is. Some Republican voters did not trust him in the primary, and some of them might still be holding out at this point. Plus, Tim Ryan is regarded as more of a moderate candidate, and he's more well-known than JD Vance, and he did not have a very competitive primary, so those are other reasons as to why Tim Ryan's support was higher for some of these summer months. But with redistricting, Tim Ryan's district was dismantled, so he basically had to run for U.S. Senate or he was going to be out of a job. He's probably the best the Democrats could do, but I really think the state has passed Tim Ryan by. I think voters would support certain economic policies from Tim Ryan, but culturally and some social issues, that's where JD Vance is going to do better. I think people want someone that is going to go up more so against political correctness or wokeness. I think that's an issue in some of these states, especially Ohio. I don't think Tim Ryan is going to be the one for that kind of cultural victory. I'm not counting out Tim Ryan, but I think when Democrats hyped up that Ohio is in play, it could flip, I think that was too premature, and I never thought Vance was actually going to lose. There were plenty of polls that did show Tim Ryan narrowly ahead in the mid to high 40s, but I figured by Election Day, Tim Ryan will wane, JD Vance will have somewhat of a surge. That's sort of what's happened over the past week or two, but this has become a bitter campaign. A lot of people seem to hate JD Vance. He's aligned with Donald Trump. Some people say he's a flip-flopper. Some people say he's evolved. I can understand some of the hesitation from some of the Republican voters. And Tim Ryan, on the other hand, he does have the experience that could be an advantage for him, but it also could be a disadvantage if people view him as a career politician. Tim Ryan has a long track record in public service. JD Vance, he's trying to start his, and whatever side you're on, would be hard to make a case where Tim Ryan can actually pull out a victory in the end. I think it will be by 5 to 9 points still. If somehow Vance fizzles at the end, I still think he'd win by 1 or 2. I don't know where Tim Ryan goes from here. I don't really think there's a place for him in the Democratic Party. A couple decades ago, he was a good fit for the Rust Belt and a lot of those union households. But he ran for president a couple of years ago, and he completely did zero with that. He's definitely not progressive enough for the base. Many of those more moderate voters are just outnumbered by the Republicans, especially with all the new ones that have shifted toward the right in the last few elections. And that is a deep dive into the Ohio U.S. Senate election. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about this race? What do you think the margin is going to be? And is there any chance Tim Ryan can pull something out? Let me know down below. And if you enjoy this channel, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next video.